All right, this morning we're talking about lying, and I don't think there's any worse thing that somebody could call you is a liar. I mean, murder is worse, probably stealing maybe a little bit worse, but lying is a commandment. Right? Don't bear false witness, I think it's such a killer or a destroyer of relationships, because if you continually lie about things, then it really destroys the relationship, because then how can I trust you? How can I know if you're going to do what you say you're going to do, if you're going to be the kind of person I need you to be, right? It is really, really, really difficult, and it's prevalent. It's everywhere except with us. We don't lie, do we? Nah. We would never lie. It's wrong. Lying is bad. We were taught as a kid, like, do not lie. But let's say you're supposed to do something, right? So like maybe Nathaniel there, you got school. You got a project that was due, and mom and dad think that you're working on it. Or maybe you're at work and you were on a committee and you had a task in front of you, and you haven't done any of it. And the boss comes in and you're not getting called into his office. He just peeks his head and goes, "Hey, how's that going?" And you're like, "I'm on it." Now, there would be a line of people that would go, you weren't lying. Were you? No, you weren't lying. But you were. You probably maybe forgot about doing that. You haven't gotten around to it. So instead of saying, "Yeah, oh man, we have got to get on that," that's different than "I'm working on it," because you're not working on it. You forgot about it. You haven't done the assignment yet. You're maybe freaking out about the assignment. And so what happens is we're so afraid of what people are going to think of us. And I think it's a real problem, especially in our world where everybody is awesome. Have you noticed that? Every really, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, I don't care what it is, but everybody's just so great, living their best life. And heaven forbid, you are terrible at something. Let me just tell you, God did not design us to be good at everything. You can't. You can't. But the world says, you gotta be just awesome at everything. Anything that you're asked, you have to be able to rock it and be incredible at it. You can't be honest and say, "I have limitations," and be honest and say, "We know God wired me for that." Once a week, at least, I say that's why I write sermons for a living. When I'm faced with a math problem. Just last night, our son was talking about his, probability? Was it the probability class he's in, or statistics or something like that? This brain just shuts off. I hear numbers and formulas. Now, some of you're like, "Yes, now we're talking." I can't adequately describe to you how blank my brain is in those moments when you start talking mathematics, right? 2 + 2 is 4, I understand, I get that, but anything beyond that, and I have to be honest with myself, I am not good at that. It would be horrible for me to pretend that I was and take over the finances of the church or anyone's finances. No, I can add and do basic things, so it's really fine. But you start getting all that heavy-duty stuff, but we don't, and we just lie about it. Now, we don't call it lying. We just call it, I just haven't added all the details. But that's lying. And at the heart of it is believing the lie, which is back in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve, perfect life. Perfect life. Trusting God, right? They're hanging with Him every day, right? It's just, I don't know what their typical day, I can't even fathom what a day would have been like for them. No worries, no fear, no shame. They're naked and they're running around and they're just doing life and they're eating and there's the stuff on the trees and they can eat whatever they want and it's just awesome. But then they believe a lie that God is not serious about truth. Serpent comes in. Did God really say? Like, come on, guys. Die? He's not going to kill you. Death is just something that he uses to keep you, and how many times have you heard this? To keep you in submission. Because he's afraid that when you eat that from that tree, your eyes will be open and you'll be like him and you won't need him anymore and all of that. And did God really say? Did God really say? And we've been lying ever since. But we call it hiding. It's hiding. Hiding from God. Hiding from the one who loves you. Hiding from the one who made you. Hiding from the only one with the answers that you need. Hiding from the only one that can save you and the only one who honestly in this world cares. How crazy is that? How wicked that is. That in order to keep people that could care less about me happy, I have to lie about who I'm not. And maybe even not talk about him. Again, that's not lying, right? I just sort of left out some details of my life. The most important thing, which is that Jesus is my Savior and my everything. So let's look and see. Is Peter guilty? All right, so put on your jurors' hats and let's go. Let's read the indictment against Peter, Matthew 26, verse 69 at the beginning. Again, Jesus has been arrested. He has been standing trial. There has been lies and lies and lies and lies. Many false witnesses. In fact, the chief priests, these guys are supposed to be about the truth. Oh my goodness. Men who gave their lives for the truth were now seeking false testimony of Jesus because they want to put him to death. They don't just want to lie, but they want to shut down the one who is the truth. And person after person after person after person goes in there and lies and twists the truth and does all these things. And again, Peter, who we know from last week and the week before, nothing subtle about this dude. I love him, man, because he's just like, open mouth, insert foot, right? And he only stops to change feet, and he's just both barrels. Jesus, I will not leave you. These other guys will, but I won't. In fact, remember, right before this, right before Jesus is arrested, he says, right before he falls asleep in the garden, he says, I will not deny you. I will die with you. And they all went, yeah, amen. Preach it, brother. We're in this for the long haul. And they fall asleep in the garden, and we talked about that last week. And they all scatter when Jesus is arrested. And Peter's following from a safe distance. It says that he's out there, he's in the courtyard, right? All this bad stuff's happening in there. And a servant girl comes up to him. Now, again, keep in mind, there's no immediate threat to Peter, is there? I mean, he's in the courtyard. Nobody's arresting him. They could have, when they came, right, in the Garden of Gethsemane, they could have taken them all away. So scholars have said there's really no like actual threat, but Peter is not going to take any chances whatsoever. So when this girl says, you were with Jesus, the Galilean, he does what I think we all do. We do the old different strokes, right? What you talking about, Willis? I have no idea. He says that. But he's like, notice, he doesn't say, I didn't know him first. I really believe he's like, I don't really know what you're talking about. It's just like babbling. It's like, blah, 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 I can't hear you. When you're a kid and you don't want to hear what somebody's saying, I can't hear you. And just by putting my hands over my ears, I will shut down what you're saying, the truth that you're saying to me, the thing you're trying to get me to admit. I don't know what you mean. And we do that. I don't want to say I don't know him. So I'm hoping that I could just say, I don't know what you mean, and that person would go, oh, yeah, you're right. I had the wrong person, and walk away. But that's not what happens. In fact, he goes over to the entrance to the courtyard, and there's another servant girl. Saw him. Now keep in mind, this is not like a Roman officer. Right? This isn't like one of the chief priests. This is a servant girl, two of them. What power did a servant girl have? What kind of clout would she have had? What would anybody even care about her testimony? The answer is absolutely not. She doesn't matter. She doesn't exist in a lot of ways. And yet, she has power over Peter to sort of take him down. She says to the bystanders, hey, he was with Jesus of Nazareth. And again, he denies it, and this time with an oath. I do not know the man. And then the bystanders get into it, right? Certainly you're one of them. The way you talk gives yourself away. You have an accent, and it's just like theirs. Of course you're one of them. And he begins to swear. He begins to curse upon himself. He begins to probably say something like, Lord, strike me dead if I am not telling the truth. I do not know this Jesus, this guy that you're talking about. Peter's not mixed up. He's not unclear. He knows who they're talking about. And he certainly knows Jesus. Because we have story after story. Peter, James, and John, Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus. How many days did they spend together? How many times did Peter and the rest of the guys see Jesus heal somebody or raise the dead or say words of truth that were just amazing? Him laying out the plan of salvation. He's going to suffer, he's going to die, and he's going to rise. And all of those things. And Jesus, he had all those interactions with him. Jesus actually said, "Get behind me, Satan," when Peter said, "No, you're not going to die." And Jesus said, no, you got to get with God's plan, not with human beings and their plans and schemes. So what do you think? Guilty? It's clear. Perjury, I've heard, is a little slippery. It's a little hard because of deception, right? It's in the word, deception. Right? You're trying to deflect away and try. But so you got to prove intentionality. You got to prove it, and it's all there. Overwhelming evidence is there. In fact, he condemns himself, doesn't he? Because he no sooner finishes that the rooster begins to crow. Immediately, the words are coming out of his mouth and he hears it. And it's maybe, I don't know, it's one of those moments, I think, where that's all he can hear. And then the words of Jesus at the same time, that he would do that. Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Jesus called it. And he goes out and he weeps bitterly. So he's guilty. We know that. But what about us? Would we be guilty of withholding, right? And saying in our own way, I don't know him? Well, like let's say there's, I'll give you a great example. There's a group of people, and you really, really want them to like you. Maybe when you were at school this happened, or this could happen at work. There's somebody, and man, they are just the coolest person ever, but they don't like God. They're not into church. They're not into religion at all. And in fact, you hear them making fun of those things. But man, I want them to like me. What do we do? I mean, we may not say these same words, I don't know Jesus. But sometimes we're like, I'm not like those people. You know what I mean? Those people. And we use words like holy roller. What does that mean? Let's be honest. When we use the word holy roller, I think it's because that person's living the life I should be living, right? That person's living with such a devotion to Jesus that it gets in the way of other things. So I call them a holy. I have to make fun of them because of their level of devotion, which makes me look terrible. Makes me look terrible. So I'll pick and choose when I'm devoted, when I'm faithful, when I'm this, and when I'm that. And we do this. We play this game. And that's, again, I know this is getting very uncomfortable, and you're like, when's he going to let up? Because it's the title of the series, right? Convicted. I want this to have us look at things and go, man, sometimes I just flat out lie. And I lie about him. When I don't speak for him, when I downplay who he is and what he means to me, he is everything. Isn't that what Paul says in that Ephesians reading? He's saying, why are we going on being these kinds of people? Well, let's look at it. He says, put away falsehood, speak the truth. We're members of one another. We belong together. Right? So don't be angry. Don't let the devil get an opportunity. Don't do any of those things. Don't let corrupting talk. Only that what's good. It talks about all those things. And in the Ephesians passage that we looked at, 4:17, and this is really kind of gets to the heart of the matter. He doesn't want us to walk like people who don't know God walk. No. He goes, they're darkened. They're alienated from the life of God. They have an ignorance in them. Their hearts are hard. They're callous, right? They've given themselves over to whatever they need and getting whatever they want. But he says, you didn't learn Christ that way. And there's this really awesome line in there. He goes, but assuming that you've learned about him. What Paul wants us to look at is our faith. Like what do we trust in? Do we trust in him? Do we know him? Do we love him? Because that is what this is all about. Peter's response to what he did was to weep bitterly. And I want us to do that. When I have not told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and when I have stopped asking God for his help in a real way, I pray that we would weep bitterly. I pray that it would make me sick to my stomach. Even for those little shades. Have you ever thought about the fact that we have something called a little white lie? Everybody's familiar with this, right? Like, what is that? It's in the name. A lie. Little white lie. See, right? There's the hiding again. It's little, right? I don't know where the white part comes in, but it's little. Well, other than being dark and nasty, right? So it's a little innocent, nothing to see here. Lie. It's a lie, though. It's a lie. There's truth and there's not. And again, I'm not saying this is easy. I'm saying there's going to be times where, again, I'm going to have to admit my failings. I'm going to have to admit some of the things that I can't do. And I got to stop being like Peter saying, no, I'm going to do this. What I need to do is go to God and ask for his forgiveness, and I need to go and ask for his power and his strength and all that I need. He goes, no, you were taught in him as the truth is in Jesus. So this isn't, listen, the answer today is not I'm not asking you, please adopt this religious philosophy that says honesty is the best policy. I hope you don't leave with that, whoa, that's what I need to do. Right? Because you'll probably fall flat on your face like I would. Because it's about loving Jesus. It's about loving because he is the truth. So it's about loving him. It's about saying, Lord, what would you have me say in this moment? How would you have me act? Because when I fail and when I've lost face with the people around me, guess who's going to be there? He is. And the proof is in what he went through. He endured lie after lie. Can you imagine that? Never sinned, never failed, always faithful, loving, caring, healing people, raising people from the dead, giving sight to the blind, doing all these things. No ulterior motive. The only person in history ever not have an ulterior motive, ever. And I get uppity and I get upset when somebody tells one lie about me. Right? We go ballistic. Oh, call down the heavens upon them. For thou hast transgressed against my honesty, and my integrity has been questioned. But the one who owns integrity, who invented integrity and character and all those things, allowed sinful men to lie about him and lie about him and lie about him. And it was part of the plan. Could you imagine that? To be betrayed, part of the plan. That's how much he loves us. That he would allow that. That would be the way that he took care of sin, that would be the way that he would wash it away, that he would take all of those things, unfiltered, right, unbuffered, right, just full blast. He would took all of that shame and all of our guilt and all of this. And what he's saying is, why aren't you taking that to me? Because that's what I did. Why are we hiding? The devil doesn't want you to know that you're hiding. He just wants you to think that you're just trying to get through it like every other human being. He's saying, look, there's a heavenly Father who wants you to go to him and ask him for forgiveness and ask him to make things right and to do what Paul is talking about. Lord, help me put off my old self, because that belongs to a different me. A me that is trapped in sin, a me that is corrupt because of my desires, which lied to me, right? Notice what he says in there. They're deceitful desires. They lie to you about what you need. Don't they? You're going to watch commercials later, and they're all going to lie to you. So they're going to say, you need this. You need to be like this to be happy. It's the biggest lie. And you know what it could be called, right? It's awful. But what's he done? He's renewing. He goes, I want you to be renewed in the spirit of your minds. I want you to put on that new self, because that's created after the likeness of God. And that is look at the words he uses, true righteousness and holiness. And biblically, holiness means to be set apart. In other words, God has a plan for you. He's got a plan for me. It involves embracing his truth. Because if we're about the truth, what can the devil do to us? What possible accusation could he bring against you if it's all really forgiven? Think about that. We're worried about it. What if that comes out? We live in a world where that is the way things are every day. Tomorrow something will drop about someone in the world that, they did this. And they'll hide. And they'll go through a 6-month thing where everybody gets trashed and everything goes through the mud, instead of just going, yeah, I took that to Jesus, man, he forgave me. The devil goes, but what about that? Jesus took care of that one too. What about that? Yeah, Jesus has got that too. Because we're guilty on some level, aren't we? Sinned, fallen short of the glory of God, that's our confession. But he loves us. He died for us. So let's live in love. Let's live in honesty. I want to be the kind of person, I pray that we can all be the kind of people that folks want to go to because we're about the truth. Man, I want to go to them because that person loves me. And I know they do because Jesus loves them, and that's what they're all about. Their sins are forgiven. They're not spending their life hiding. Honestly, that's what this whole thing that Paul talks about, being in the light and living in the light. That's what we're talking about. So let's live by his truth, embracing him who is the truth and the love that he has. And man, I pray that our prayer is that can grow into that likeness of Christ, right? That he would continue to renew me. That would be a great prayer for us to continually pray. Lord, renew me today. Lord, help me to get rid of that old self and put on the new self. To put on Christ, to put on that forgiveness and that love and that mercy, because that's where their forgiveness is. Could you imagine a life? Let's dream for a minute where you're not having to prove yourself every minute. You're not having to keep people that could care less about you happy and thinking this way about you. What if you could just go, man, I'm just going to be me. I'm going to be who God made me to be. And that's not a dream, man. That's truth. That's reality. That's who we are. Loved by him, forgiven by him, accepted by him, held by him. It's in his name that we ask all these things.